My caregiver, Jasmine, was attentive, perhaps too attentive. After taking my medicine, I'd always drift into a deep sleep. One day, I decided not to take it. That day, my mind was crystal clear for the first time in months. I should start at the beginning. I'm Eleanor Washington, 72 years old and a retired librarian. My world was books and quiet corridors until I took that fall. For half a century, I walked the aisles of West Side Library. When I retired, they gave me a silver watch and threw a party where everyone clapped, but nobody really knew me. I came home to an empty house and realized I'd spent my life helping others find stories while neglecting to write my own. Robert, my husband, died 15 years ago. Heart attack, quick and cruel. We never had children, just my cat Fitzgerald, my first editions, and this house in Maple Hill. Dad left it to me, and now it's worth north of $2 million. Not that I'm wealthy. The house is everything. Before the fall, life had a pleasant rhythm. Mornings in the garden, afternoons with books, evenings sharing tea with Ruby next door. She's pushing 85, forgets things sometimes, but those eyes miss nothing. Then came the fall. I was carrying a stack of books downstairs when Fitzgerald darted between my feet. The crack of my hip breaking echoed through the empty house. The pain was excruciating. I lay there for hours, my phone on the kitchen counter. Useless. Ruby found me. She noticed I'd missed our daily tea, called the ambulance. In the hospital, the doctor looked at me over his glasses and said the words that changed everything. Mrs. Washington, you cannot live alone anymore. If I'd had children of my own, perhaps. But I didn't. Susan and James flew in the next day, my sister Patricia's children. When Patricia died of cancer 10 years ago, I promised to look after them. Instead, they now claimed they needed to look after me. Susan sat by my hospital bed, her designer purse perched on her lap. Aunt Ellie, this changes everything. You have options. Sell the house and come live with us in California, or we find someone to take care of you. Her smile never reached her eyes. I refused to leave my home. This house holds my memories, my books, my life. James, always the practical one, nodded. A caregiver makes sense. We'll handle everything. They moved quickly. Within days, Jasmine appeared at my door. Hello, Mrs. Washington. I'm Jasmine Davis, your new caregiver. 40-something, slim with a smile that seemed rehearsed yet convincing. Her references were impeccable. 3 elderly clients, all supposedly singing her praises. Susan and James stayed for the weekend, showing Jasmine around my house, giving her keys, access codes, my medication schedule. They pointed out the location of important documents, my will, insurance policies, bank statements, things family discusses openly, I suppose. Aunt Ellie, Susan said before leaving, you're so lucky. Jasmine is an absolute gem. They flew back to California the next morning. Their calls became less frequent, but they always asked about Jasmine. By the second week, small oddities began to surface. You might dismiss it as an old woman's paranoia, but librarians are trained observers. We catalog details others miss. First, there were Jasmine's phone conversations, always in the garden, always hushed. Once I heard fragments, yes, worth at least $2 million, no children, just the niece and nephew in California. They're eager for the inheritance. Yes, they've agreed to the arrangement. I told myself she must be talking about someone else. Some other client, perhaps. But then came the medicine. My doctor had prescribed mild painkillers for my hip and a sleep aid for the discomfort. Every night at 8, Jasmine would appear with a glass of water and my pills. Time for your medicine, Mrs. Washington. Within 20 minutes, I'd feel a heaviness unlike normal drowsiness. By 8:30, I'd be unconscious until morning. One night, I felt nauseated after taking the pills and rushed to the bathroom. I vomited everything up. That night I didn't fall asleep. My mind was alert while my body felt leaden. Around midnight, my bedroom door creaked open. Jasmine entered, flashlight in hand, thinking I was asleep. She went straight to my dresser, removing the false bottom I thought nobody knew about, examining my grandmother's diamonds. Then to my closet, feeling along the wall for my safe. The next morning I said nothing. Maybe I'd imagined it, but when Fitzgerald jumped into my lap, his eyes seemed to hold a warning. Cats know things. After that night, I pretended to take my medication. "Thank you, dear," I'd say, slipping the pills under my pillow when she turned away. And because I was awake, I saw everything. One afternoon during Jasmine's shopping trip, Ruby came for tea. Her hands shook as she set down her cup. "Eleanor, that caregiver of yours, where did your niece find her?" "Some agency. Superior Care, I think. Why?" Ruby leaned forward, voice dropping. "Last night I couldn't sleep. Around 1 a.m, I saw her at your bedroom window passing something, looked like a jewelry box, to someone waiting outside, a man in a car." "Are you sure?" "Your eyesight isn't what it used to be," I said, though my heart was racing. "My eyes are weak, Eleanor, but I'm not senile." "There's something wrong with that woman, and—" She hesitated. "I've seen that car before. When Susan and James were here, it was parked down the street. That detail sent a chill through me." "What are you suggesting, Ruby?" "I'm suggesting you check her credentials. And maybe call your niece and nephew, but don't tell them what you suspect. Just test their reaction." That night, Jasmine brought 2 pills instead of 1. "Dr. Reynolds increased your dosage today," she said smoothly. "Did he?" "That's odd, since he's at a conference in Boston this week," I replied, watching her face carefully. A flicker of panic crossed her features before she recovered. "Oh, I spoke with his associate then." They left clear instructions. Another lie. The next morning, while Jasmine showered, I searched her room. Her phone was password protected. Her drawers were empty except for clothes, but under her mattress, I found a notebook containing names and figures. Margaret Wilson, $130,000, completed. George Thompson, $78,000, completed. Eleanor Washington, $250,000, in progress. There was a folded document, a contract. As I read it, my blood turned to ice. Agreement between Susan and James Collins and Jasmine Davis, a.k.a. Angela Parker. Payment of $250,000 upon successful acquisition of Eleanor Washington's estate through accelerated natural causes. Estate valued at approximately $2.3 million. Timeline, 3 months maximum. Method, untraceable. Previous medical conditions to be exploited. My own family. My sister's children. They'd hired this woman not to care for me, but to kill me for money. At the bottom of the page, upon completion, property to be liquidated and divided as per last will and testament, with AP receiving additional compensation as agreed. My hands trembling, I replaced everything and called Susan from my bedroom phone. "Susan, darling, I'm considering updating my will. With this hip fracture, I've been thinking about mortality." "Oh," her voice sharpened with interest. "What changes are you thinking of, Aunt Ellie?" "I might donate the house to the library instead of leaving it to you and James, since you're both doing so well in California." A long pause. "That seems hasty, Aunt Ellie. We should discuss this when we visit next month. How are you feeling, by the way? Is Jasmine taking good care of you? She's very attentive with my medication." Good. That's very important." Take all your medicine, Aunt Ellie. Doctor's orders. After hanging up, I sat motionless, the pieces fitting together like a grotesque puzzle. The medication that left me unconscious, the inventory of my possessions, the convenient fall that gave them the perfect opening. I needed proof and help, but who could I trust? Ruby and I devised a plan. Her son, Mark, was a retired police detective who lived an hour away. He arrived the next morning before Jasmine woke. "We need evidence," he explained. "Suspicion isn't enough." Mark installed tiny cameras in my bedroom and the living room. He took samples of my medication and my actual prescription. Then he replaced my pills with identical-looking placebos. "Call this number if anything happens," he said, writing down his cell. "And Eleanor, be careful. Act normal." For 3 days, I played the role of the obedient patient, taking my medicine, sleeping when expected. Meanwhile, the cameras recorded Jasmine searching my home at night, replacing my real pills with whatever she was giving me and making late-night calls. On the 4th night, she made a call from my living room that sealed her fate. "It's taking too long." No, I can't just smother her with a pillow. It needs to look natural, and they're getting impatient. Tell them good work takes time. Yes, I've been increasing the dosage. Another week, maybe 2. Of course I've been careful. This isn't my first job. The next morning, Mark arrived with 2 police officers and a warrant. They found the contract, the notebook, the modified medications containing traces of untraceable toxins that over time would cause heart failure. When confronted, Jasmine, whose real name was Angela Parker, broke down quickly, offering to testify against Susan and James in exchange for leniency. They arrested Susan and James at their home in San Diego. On their computers, searches for undetectable poisons, inheritance laws, and how to speed up elderly death naturally. In their emails, discussions with Angela about my daily routine and health. The trial was brief. Angela turned state's evidence. My beloved niece and nephew received 15 years each for conspiracy to commit murder. Angela got 7 years with her cooperation deal. The most chilling moment was Susan's testimony. When asked why, she looked directly at me and said she was going to outlive her money eventually. We'd have to take care of her anyway. This was more efficient. I sold the house in Maple Hill. Too many shadows there now. With the proceeds, I bought a small cottage near the ocean. Ruby moved into the guest house. Her son Mark checks on us weekly. I started a foundation for elderly people without families, providing legal advocacy and protection services. We run background checks on caregivers that go far beyond what agencies typically do. Fitzgerald still sleeps on my lap each afternoon while I read. I've started writing my memoir. Turns out I had a story worth telling, after all. Every night before bed, I count out my own medication twice. Old habits. People ask if I'm angry. Not anymore. Mostly I'm grateful. For Ruby's watchful eyes, for Mark's expertise, for the second chance I nearly didn't get. What I tell the seniors at our foundation meetings is simple. Trust your instincts. Age makes the body frail, not the mind. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And family. Well, family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the neighbor who notices when your light isn't on. Sometimes it's a cat who warns you with a look. Sometimes it's the people you choose. I chose Ruby. I chose life. And every morning when I wake up, in my small cottage by the sea, I choose to be not a victim but a survivor. The ones who tried to write my ending don't get to hold the pen anymore. That privilege is mine alone. My name is Ruby, And I want to thank Eleanor for sharing her story with us. What would you do in a situation like this? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you liked Eleanor's story, please like the video and subscribe to Stories of Aunt Ruby. More real-life stories await you. Until next time, take care of yourselves and make sure the people you trust are truly trustworthy. With love and truth, Ruby.